Moodie, Betsy Davis, back with another episode of Colorbar. Colorbar, where we're learning marketing, innovation, tech, leadership. All these things are coming together, and a lot of our conversations have been around immersive environments and this experiential, which Kim and I always pronounce incorrectly. And
Absolutely.
today we're going to really dive deep into that whole conversation. So, Kim, here we are again.
I know. I'm excited for the conversation. I think our guest Wendy is going to take it to a whole new creative heights as far as dimensional environments and how tech applies and just engaging with guests and really getting that in-person environment and have it and how it engages and how people want to show up in person and just how they are taking it to the next level in all the different kinds of spaces, everything from retail to meeting spaces to entertainment. So looking forward to it.
Yeah. So, without further ado, Wendy Moodie from Passes. We have the pleasure of working alongside them at Sandy Alexander and helping create these events and activations and these moments together. And when we had the Glimpse event, so if any of you missed that, it was all about this conversation. And Wendy's like, I want to be a part of these conversations. And you were meant to be with us a while back, but she got pulled. She was busy at Comic Con
That's right.
creating amazing moments. So you'll have to share some of those insight with us. But Wendy, welcome to Color Bar. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So talk to us and talk to the listeners a little bit about your business, your background, and kind of tee us up for where we're going to take the conversation today with your background and experience.
Sure. My business partner, Terry Merkel, and myself started production and special event services in 1997. At the time that we started, Terry had been working for the Nederlander organization doing concert touring and venue management, and I was at Walt Disney Imagineering. We both came from a production background, from a technical side, and from an event side. Our client at Disney said, "Hey, if you start your own company, I can give you some business," and that's what started it all. He was an event marketing person at the Walt Disney Company, Danco, and quickly we realized that the three of us had the complete perspective. It's a marketing perspective, an execution, and a financial responsibility, and guest experience lens. So we were able to really create amazing things. We started off our first year doing 101 Dalmatians in Central Park. We cruised down the Hudson and sailed a tall ship in for the premiere of Pocahontas, and it just kind of went on from there. So it's been a really fun ride. 25 years later, that the industry's really changed.
That's amazing. Well, when we say Imaginarium, I already kind of know where this conversation is going to go. Like you have the imagination. We've seen some of your work already. Love that. So today we want to dive a little bit deeper into it does feel like it's kind of a newer conversation. Like you've been doing it for events and concerts and these types of things for years, but it does feel like retailers and corporations and the travel and hospitality space, like they're having to really welcome and embrace this immersive environment moment that consumers and guests are wanting to experience. So really curious from you, from your perspective, how have you seen it change? Like, are you seeing that same shift in creating this three-dimensional world for brands?
Yeah, 100%. When we started off, our clientele primarily were the studios, and we worked
Okay.
primarily for almost every studio. But from then, we now work in almost every vertical. We have many cosmetics clients, beauty in general. We work travel. Viking Cruises is one of our main clients. So we're all over the board, and so what has happened is when we first started off, we primarily worked on animated titles. So one of our first big ones was Beauty and the Beast. But nobody had ever seen the ballroom, right? But it had to be brought to life for the premiere in a very organic and real way that supported the brand. So whatever had to happen had to look and feel to the level of that Disney brand. And so we take that perspective, and I think everybody has to take that perspective when they bring a brand to life. You have to be true to that brand messaging and up to the quality of that brand. And I feel like that's where I've seen some people miss the mark, right? So our Disney, the fact that we're all ex-Disney people has helped us because it has made us form a lens that everything has to meet
Right.
brand standard, and it has to fully mesh with the vision that the guest has.
Yeah. Every touch point, right? Every touch point is important when you're building these type of environments and especially bringing a brand to life. So every touch point, and we probably have even more now touch points than we did when you guys initially started, when you're bringing in tech or how you layer in different things and just how it's evolved. So the amount of touch points and probably things that you have to consider has probably changed. You've seen it change just as much as what went from kind of like just for studios is now, evolved into, retail in different spaces like, Wendy was mentioning.
Years ago, we did Fast and Furious premiere, and it was in Puerto Rico, and we wanted to have guests walk in and there be actual racing around the room, video mapped around the room. Well, this was years ago, right? Before video mapping was a thing. So literally, we had hundreds of cameras videoing the same thing, and then we had tons of projectors around the room slowly showing all of them and trying to sync them up with the computer. So and now I can do it like on my laptop. So the ideas have stayed the same, but what we're now able to accomplish is just throwing gas on the fire, right? We can pretty much execute anything these days at a price point that's actually coming down in some.
That was gonna be one of my questions for you. We talk about AI all the time on Colorbar and how that applies to marketing, but just how tech is and innovation has changed. Is AI something that you're using to bring up the level of inspiration and creativity? Or, what are those tools that you're using that are game changers in how you're able to execute?
I feel like I should be using AI.
Fair. That's fair.
That I should embrace. But outside of cheating on some cool backgrounds on PowerPoints, I think that's the extent that I've used AI since we've been here. But tech in general, the advancements yeah, in my industry particularly, which was my I started as a lighting designer, has been just and projections and video and all of that has just changed everything. And that's what allows you to make more of a seamless environment without having to build sets. I mean, in the old days, we'd have to build just tons and tons. I had 4 trucks of scenery to do what I can do now with graphics and projection mapping. So it's really a game changer.
Talk to us about some of your favorite executions that you've done lately. I talked about your Comic-Con visits, but what are some things that you're doing right now that are exciting?
Um, we There's a lot of fun things. We just did Virtuoso for Viking cruises at the Aria. That was more of a booth experience, but it was fun to. It's always fun when we get a chance to bring that brand to life because it's the luxury space and it's really they're an amazing group to work with because of their level of quality and the lens that they put on everything that they do. Just from a fun perspective, we just did the press junkets for Fantastic Four. So we were able to turn rooms from the Four Seasons Beverly Hills into the kitchen from the Fantastic Four and the living room and a lounge and the costume display. So bringing that to life was amazing and fun and a ridiculous challenge because everything had to go up a tiny elevator. So, uh, and we had like a day. So, but it was, and that's another example. That scenery was helped along tremendously by digital graphics. But it since it's a close-up set, you have to have the hardware and everything to sell it. But the entire floor, we did a terrazzo floor. Sandy Alexander laid down the digital graphic there and made a complete terrazzo floor, which helped sell the whole look. So I think marrying digital graphics with scenery is so important. You can't just in my mind, you can't do one or the other. A completely digital graphic environment to me looks flat,
Mhm.
and no one can afford to do a full scenic environment. But I think the hybrid makes it great.
Well, we keep using the term phygital around here
Yes.
too, and I think we've usually used it talking about using, like, physical direct mail with digital communications, but you've just put it in a totally different perspective
Mhm.
for me of physical and digital from creating a brand experience, which is also really interesting, and
Yeah.
it's fun that we as that two-dimensional world at Sandy get to play a part in
Three-dimensional spaces.
creating
Yeah.
these larger spaces. You, you've talked a couple of times about budget, um, and you're obviously executing some of these things for companies like Viking and Disney and others. What does that process look like when or if a brand wants to do something that feels a little bit immersive,
Where do you start?
where do you
Yeah,
start?
where do you
Yeah.
start?
Yeah. It starts with budget. How much do you have? And that kind of drives everything else. We're able to we actually just for the hair care product K18 we just did um we did a walkthrough, an immersive walkthrough of the hair follicle. Right?
Okay.
I'm glad it wasn't my hair
Oh,
follicle because that would have been a whole nother experience.
But what it was showing how the product actually affects the core of your hair and but it was done in a really fun way, right? So that you could go through room to room to room. And this is something that there was a lot of expectations to it, but the budget was pretty low, right? So we used graphics and projection and lighting in ways that could extend the money, right? So oftentimes the less money people have, the more digital outputs and the more graphics are involved, right? So we try to design things where we can afford a little bit of both in each experience to try to really make it feel more physical,
Physical.
more digital.
Um, so how does like your process start? Is it where brands come to you and they say, "Hey, I have an idea, I want to do this," or do they come with you and they're like, "We have a marketing deck, we just need to execute this," or do you guys kind of take a collaborative approach and kind of brainstorm and come up with the creative and then figure out the best way to execute it within budget?
Yeah, all of the above.
Oh, okay.
People come to us and say, "I have a meeting next week, and this is what I'm trying to sell. Can you help me?"
Can you help me?
Literally the direction, right? But and then others come with a full 18 full deck. K18 always comes to us with a complete concept. And I we work with their digital marketing team who have a complete idea. Disney often because we've been partners with them for so many years have a basic concept of what they want to do. And we'll just flesh it out and try to make it real. They're like, "How cool would it be if we could?" And then we take it from there. So it's really a combination, and it varies wildly.
One of my questions, we had a conversation earlier today about, the marketing budget, and sometimes there's big dollars spent on some of these things. But what I've never really thought about on this type of experiential branding moment, how do you track ROI on something like that? Like and do you get involved with them on helping them really understand what that drove from them from a revenue perspective?
Yeah. More of our clients than not are not the big dollar people, even though they're big brands. They don't have a big budget necessarily, right?
Yep.
So with
Mhm.
huge expectations and what they do spend, the money that they do spend on it, everybody does want to know what did we get out of it? What was the value of it? So there's a variety of overlays that we've been trying to incorporate within all of our experiential to be able to provide KPIs, right? We have often trying to incorporate an app for the experience because with the app we can track a number of different things, zip code,
Mhm.
that interests. We did Planet of the Apes, for example, at Comic Con last year, and one of the things that we did in line while people were waiting, because Comic Con is notorious for 2 hour lines to get into something, we did Planet of the Apes trivia app where people could scan a QR code and it would just went to a trivia thing. So while they were standing there, they could answer questions. So from a top line point of view, it provided an activity for the guest, which made the guest experience better.
Mhm.
Also, it supported the brand because we asked questions about the brand that really supported brand marketing concepts. But then on the other side, we were able to collect data from it, right? So from if you are with a company now, we because of the Walt Disney Company and who they are, we did not track or keep any of the data on that, because it is, very sacrosanct for them,
Mhm.
Mhm.
not
Mhm.
collect data from people, right? But we were able to do basic things like how many people played the game and, basic stuff. For some people we do, who don't collect digital data, we do exit polling. So we'll have people coming, as they come out of the experience, we'll ask them questions like, approximate age, ethnicity, so we could get some basic demographic information from people and just say, "Hey, what did you like about it? What was your experience like?" That's the old school, completely safe data way of doing it. And then from a complete Big Brother standpoint, there are services like Placer AI, who you can geofence your experience, and everybody who walks through and is in that area,
Mhm.
they scrub all of the data that's in that area. So, for example, we work a lot with Live Nation, and we did BTS experience in Santa Monica. And the city of Santa Monica, 3rd Street actually has Placer AI, so they were able to give us demographic information based on that. So that's quite handy. So really, the bottom line, that was a really long answer. I'm sorry. Fine. Is it a lot of the KPI and a lot of the back end data depends on the sensitivity of data collection of the corporation that you're working with.
Mhm. Mhm.
So there's a number of ways of being able to do it depending on who you are and what how you feel corporately about that.
So we were just saying that, for a brand that comes to you that has never done something like this before,
Yeah.
what advice would you give? Like, we talked a little bit about how the process starts, but if you've never gone down this path before, what advice would you give?
Yeah. Number one is what are your goals? What do you want to achieve from it? Amazing things can happen and there can be fantastic environments created, a ridiculous amount of beautiful branding, but what are you really ultimately trying to achieve?
Mhm.
And is the money worth it? There are so many things that I haven't done. There's been so many amazing concepts that have floated over my desk. And really, it's just like, do you want to spend this kind of money? Because
Mm.
people underestimate the amount of money it takes to do these things, and hard costs like graphics, that is one thing, but the cost that nobody factors in is operation, permitting, building and safety, fire marshal. All of that has just gone up exponentially. The cost of labor, particularly here in California and other states, with everybody has to be under workman's comp policies, everyone gets audited. So it's it even though let's say the thing is $100,000, right? It could be a $500,000 when all is said and done with all the labor costs, because the money's in the labor, and you guys know that from
Mhm.
running a business.
Right, right.
I mean, that's where the money is, and people don't see that, and they don't factor that in. So, really, what are you trying to achieve, and is it worth it? Is the money worth it?
Then what about from a timing perspective? Like you talked, before we joined about having to call Sandy Alexander and be like, "Oh my god, I need this tomorrow, ASAP." And those things always happen, but when you think about somebody coming to you with a concept to installation and the event, what typical timeframes are you looking at?
It depends on the vertical. Beauty, plans ahead. Travel industry plans ahead. We do a lot with art shows, like art galleries, art shows. Those people plan ahead. Galas plan ahead. The entertainment industry hardly ever plans ahead.
I was gonna say someone doesn't plan ahead. We're getting to the I don't plan ahead list real quick here. Like,
And it's because a lot of times what we do is second market. So we won't be involved in the promotion in the first run theatrical. We get it when it's going direct to home entertainment or now streaming. It's the promotion that happens after it gets into the theater to continue the sales and to continue the visibility in the product. And that is always a fluid number and something that happens very last minute because it's driven by the performance in theaters, right? So if you have Lilo and Stitch is a great example. Everyone thought it was like a great movie. They kind of made it for Disney Plus, but it seemed to be really good. And then it made $1 billion, right? So that as it became popular, it changed the trajectory of how it was being advertised post theatrical release. So we because of that and because we often deal with those divisions in entertainment, we get things very last minute and it's very you know, it's a reactionary
Yes.
style of business, you know.
You were talking about Lilo and Stitch, and then we've talked beauty, we've talked I'm assuming you also have to take into regard who are who is the
audience,
audience.
the targeted audience.
So, if you're building for Lilo and Stitch and it's gonna be kids engaging with the moment, that has to feel very different than Viking Cruise Line's Planet of the Apes moment. I'm assuming those are 2 very different audiences.
Yes and no, because here's the truth of the matter is the reach of the experience always exceeds the number of people that go through it. The experience itself is one thing, and we always have to build it in a way that speaks to the audience, but to the consumer, right? So with Lilo and Stitch, is the consumer a kid or is the consumer the parent, right?
Mhm,
So, but in any of these experiences, it's what happens after the experience. It is the social media, it is the edited social videos, it is all of the social media that's posted from everybody that goes through the experience.
mhm,
That's really where you get the majority of your that's where the ROI comes in, right?
mhm.
Because there's only a handful
Yeah.
that can actually experience it. With Planet of the Apes, for example, we had oh my god, we had millions of consumer impressions. We had something like 40, 50 news crews come through. And that's where it was, I mean, it was 3,000 people or 5,000 people, but everyone saw it because of the amount of coverage that it got. So, and that's whether you're in a beauty brand or in the travel agency or you're, you know, starting a clothing line. I mean, that's really why you do the experience.
Uh-huh. We're seeing you brought up retail, we're seeing more pop-up shops happening. Do you play in that space as well?
Yeah, we do.
Tips?
We do. We actually just did at Ace Mission Studios last year a experience for K-pop. that had a large pop-up store, pop-up retail. It's um, you know, everybody now, because of the way that everybody consumes data and information, you can't just walk into a store. The store has to have movement and light and sound and energy and music. It's an experience no matter where you go. But the pop up stores particularly lean into that. We're actually working with a book publisher to create an experience to try to bring a book to life because now, you know, people's level of expectation and interest are completely different than it was a few years ago.
Yeah, that totally is. That would be interesting to bring a book to life.
I love that.
I know.
We talk all the
So
time that we're printers.
right, so we like tactile things, but
We still want the book, but yes, to see it come to life
exactly.
would be great.
Yeah,
We won't say yeah.
unfortunately, it's going the way of vinyl, right? Like it's, I think, I see a near future where books are more of a collector thing than the norm, and that's makes me sad also. But
Yes, exactly.
for sure.
Well, before we wrap, you brought up the future. Look forward 5 years. Now you've been doing this for 30 plus years with passes. What do you see the future look like in this space? What should we be looking out for and being excited about?
Yeah, I think it's the continuation of immersive experiences. And because of companies like Fever and people that have targeted specifically immersive environments, the concept of an immersive experience is like, oh, it cost me $35. I walk through with my family. But I think that's becoming more and more refined and more niche so that these experiences can pop up in a 5,000 square foot space, a 2,000 square foot space, an end cap.
Mhm.
you know, I think as experiential marketing becomes more normal, I think it's just going to blend into social media marketing and the new age of digital marketing. So I believe that that's going to become more refined, more specifically targeted to one or two touch points for the guest. Um, that's what I think, and it's going to be everywhere.
Well, we are going to, you were great and gave us imagery of some of these beautiful creations that you've done. So we will edit those into the content so everybody can see the hair follicles, see Planet of the Apes, see all of these amazing things that you've done. We're excited to continue to be a part of those experiences with you at Sandy Alexander and continue to share all the new fun stuff that you guys are doing. And we'll make sure that the Color Bar listeners get to continue to see what's happening in this three-dimensional crazy space.
I know, but it is interesting, and I think it's interesting just as we're wrapping up the point of it sounds like it's kind of here to stay, and that it is just, it's the level of the consumer, just continues to evolve, that it will be like a touch point, just like we consider social and all of those other things, and that it's just kind of, it'll just kind of continue to evolve. And I think that's cool because I think those environments are really neat, and you can do a lot with them virtually when they're done. Like she said, you got more hits off of doing it this way versus the 3,000 people that went through it. But what it did for your brand and how it's become a part of your brand and it's a major touch point that then kind of goes viral, I think is a fascinating way of the future of marketing.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, Wendy, before we let you get back to France?
I just think I know.
Bless your heart. Bless your heart in France. Yep.
I think for me, it's I want to encourage everybody and all of your listeners to be daring with technology and graphics and be bold. Be able to don't be afraid to try new things. Try to mash video and graphics and scenic together along with social and see what you get. because it's a brave new world, and it's really you can come up with some really amazing creations if you work together.
I love
That's
that. Well, thank you for being one of those people that help the imagination come to life. We
Yes.
appreciate it. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening to us again. And we'll continue this conversation about immersive environments and experiencing life and experiencing brands together. Thanks so much. Subscribe to Colorbar, and we'll see you again really soon.